One shape we'll be playing with quite a lot is called a loon, which obviously is shaped a bit like a moon. If we start with a decagon, 10-sided, and then 3 sides you fold in like that, you're left with this shape. So you started with 10, you fold in 3, we'll call that a loon 10-3. Here you start with a hexagon, fold in 2, that's a loon 6-2. Here was a heptagon, 7 sides, fold into loon 7-2. And if you remember school maths, you have equal chords subtend equal angles in a circle. So you can see how all these angles must be the same here. We've got unit angle of 180 degrees divided by 7. So in every triangle, the sum of the angles is 7. Anyway, I won't get too distracted with that. Turning to 6 orientations, let's look at the loon 6-2 then, with a triangular hole. Now notice that the loon 6-2 is symmetrical, so it's not flippable. So we only have 6 colours available. Here we are. Making use of the hole then, the triangular hole, you can see it's quite easy to put these together. But without the hole, just going solo, it's a bit more tricky. This is the 5-try tick. This one doesn't have any line of symmetry, and so it's flippable. And so this one is quite easy to put together. Here we've scored 180. This one is just based on hexagonal tiling, but in fact it's quite tricky to put together. Talking of hexagons, here are some shapes that are made by putting hexagons together. In this case, 3 of them. Now this one is not flippable, so it's a bit tricky. And this one, that I call the scorpion. I'm not quite sure now. Anyway, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexagons and flippable. And here we have quite a few scorpions mingling together. Turning to 8 orientations, we have the loon 8-2, like this. Not flippable because it has axis of symmetry through the middle there. And we can put this together quite nicely. But if you need a bit of help, we have the whole tile as a square. Here's an attempt I made. It has rotational symmetry, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8. And I obviously got as far as here and then had some difficulty and invoked the tile, the whole tile as well. Earlier on I showed you this one, the 45-degree one, so still 8 orientations. And how far did I get with that? Right, well there we are, solo. Obviously I thought it was a bit difficult, that's as far as I got. For orientations 10, anybody that saw my sonnet puzzle video would recognize these guys. This is the Loon 5-2, although I didn't call it that at the time. This one is quite interesting to try and put together. See how I got on? There. So obviously didn't do very well solo, but with using a hourglass hole, I've managed to, this one scores 133. And now another loon, this time Loon 10-3. And this has an interesting hole tile, the leaf. So we'll try and put some of these together. Oh no, I can't do that. The Loon 10-3 and leaf with rotational symmetry, 12-8, etc. 100 tiles. So that's quite nice. This one I call the horn, not surprisingly. And the hole tile is this little thing, lens or boat, and together make quite a big score there. They scored 140. This is a fan-tail bird and leaf. I couldn't resist putting the flip spot just where its eye would be. Here's the leaf. Here we are with rotational symmetry. I got this far. All the tails waggling around the outside. This is a rather unpromising kind of skew shape with a thin rhombus, but it actually produces quite nice patterns here. Now to 12 orientations. We have the little shard, which those of you who've seen the Sonnet puzzle video would have seen already. Flippable and very flexible. We can do rotational symmetry order 4, 6 or 12 with a hexagon as a hole. You can get some quite nice patterns. Or we can just go solo and we can get quite carried away. This one actually scores 348. So if you think that's too easy, we could try the little shard with no flip. No flipping here. Just one side and hexagonal holes. Or no flip solo, but a bit more difficult. Also, with 12 orientations, we have something I call the balabas. A bit strange, this one. And with a little triangle sometimes to fit in odd places. Well, we don't get very far, but that was quite fun. And the last number of orientations we'll look at is 14. This is supposed to be a bird's head. With something I've called a skew tie. And here we have rotational symmetry of order 7. In fact, the tiles are flippable as well. Can you see there's black and there's near black? Just to show you that those are flipped versions of those. So that was quite good. Now, slightly different type of leaf. 14 orientation leaf with a barrel. There we are. Now they put together and make these funny, well, that's a loon, isn't it? Or a spirally thing. And here, no rotational symmetry. All these swirling patterns. It's quite tricky, this one, but quite fun. Scored 62 for that. And last but not least, we have the swans. Well, I couldn't put the flip spot on its eye this time, but this is supposed to be its head, and this is its fluffy body and its tail. So every few years, the swans get together and have a meeting. The 7 elders come together for a head-to-head. And then the next 7 want to join in as well. And the next 7. Now, of all the colours of swans, we've still got 7 who haven't been included in the meeting yet. Can we squeeze them in? Yes, there we are. All the swans have now joined the meeting. And then things get a bit out of hand when some more swans squeeze their tails in between as well. And so it goes on. But unfortunately, if we try and extend much further, you're going to start seeing patterns repeated. It breaks sonnet rules. So we'll have to stop the meeting there. I show you here a written summary of the rules. Sonnet rules, consisting of 2 equilateral shapes, tiles and holes, that may be turned, that's rotated, or flipped over. Rule number 1, tiles of the same orientation cannot touch, cannot share an edge. Rule number 2, holes cannot touch. Rule number 3, 2 identical groups cannot touch, a group being 2 or more touching tiles or holes. So in this setup, we have 2 tiles of the same orientation and the same color touching. That's not allowed. And then Over here we have two holes touching. Although they're different orientation, holes cannot touch, not allowed. Black and blue, same group touching, not allowed. And here we have red, blue, green, repeated group touching, not allowed. And just to be clear, here we have green, yellow, but this group together is not the same as that group together. So that's okay. So I do hope you'll want to play with the Sonnat program, or of course make your own. But if you want to download mine, a Python program, I'll put a link in the description. All the tiles that we've looked at are there, plus plenty of others. So you can play with it, but if you want to add new tiles of your own, I'll just explain how to do it here. So if you're not a programmer, don't worry about this little bit. For example, we'll look at the little shard that had 12 orientations. So each angle of rotation was 360 degrees divided by 12, 30 degrees. So let's call beta 30 degrees. All the angles of the shape are multiples of 30 degrees, multiples of beta. So the way the program is set up, there is a special file just for orientation 12. And there's a separate file for orientation 8 and 10, etc. And in that file you will find the definition of the little shard like this. In fact, that's a flipped one. This is normal one. This is the place you click to rotate the tile. And these are the vertices, vertex 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 5 vertices. And the whole tile is a hexagon, so 6 vertices. So the first thing you see here, well, the first thing is the name. You can put whatever name you want for your tile definition. And then the number of vertices, first of all, for the main tile, 5, and then for the whole tile, 6. 5, 6, the number of vertices. And then we have a list for the turns for the main hull and a list for the turns for the whole tile. So, well, we're starting in this direction and we turn, in fact, outwards by negative beta. So in multiples of beta, that's negative 1. So the first turn is negative 1. And then from that direction, we turn by 4 beta. So that's turn of 4. From this direction, we turn by 3, turn by 1, turn by 5, and we're back to where we started. So the turns for the little shard are like that. And for the hexagon, all the turns are of 2. Now the sum of the external angles, these are all external angles, must be 360 degrees. 360 degrees is 12 beta, or that is the number of orientations. So the sum of these numbers must be 12, and the sum of those numbers must be 12, must equal the number of orientations. This is rotational symmetry. The little shard has rotational symmetry of order 1, in fact, because it doesn't have any rotational symmetry. And the rotational symmetry of a regular hexagon is, of course, 6. Is it flippable? This one is flippable because it doesn't have a line of symmetry, so that's flippable. But the hexagon is not flippable. So true, false. And this last thing tells the program where to put the flip spot. And in fact, the little numbers that appear when you run the check. So we're telling the program to place the flip spot midway between vertices 0 and 2. 0 and 2. So for the main tile, the flip spot will be placed midway between the vertices 0 and 2. And 0 and 3 in the middle there for the hexagon. Okay. I hope that will help you be able to set up your own shapes to experiment and play with. It's quite nice as well when you're doing rotational symmetry to start around a bigger, different type of hole. Or sometimes the temptation is too high just to forget the rules and make your own patterns. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching, and see if you can beat my scores. Put in the comments how you get on, and bye for now.